Hello, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Brigitta Toruño, and welcome to Uno Soul's Chat. I am honored to be chatting today with Shabnam Curtis, and she is an Uno Soul. She's an integral life coach and author. Welcome, Shabnam.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Brigitta. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I'm so glad. I'm going to read a little bit of your bio and then we'll start. Shabnam was born and raised in Tehran, experiencing the Iranian Revolution of 1979 firsthand. In 2004, she immigrated to the United States, where she now works as a passionate life coach and a writer. She offers one-on-one coaching sessions as well as workshops for groups. So, Shabnam, I would love to know, how have you been doing? I mean, we're almost finished our second year of the pandemic. How did you do during that time?
Wow. To be honest with you, it's been a mixed of experiences. I really like to contemplate in this concept of paradox in all different events of my life. And that's kind of like a very good example of it, because when I look at it, of course, it was sad to be at home away from loved ones, or watching people, losing their lives, losing their loved ones, losing their jobs. But then at the same time, I could hear that a lot of people were happy because their whole family were stuck at home, work from home. And now everybody is like, not everybody, of course, but a lot of people, including myself, they're like, wow, work from home is actually a blessing. It's like a lot less stressful to be in your own environment, to be with your family members, have the lunchtime with them. And personally, I had the blessing of having my daughter to come home. And I remember she said she was in San Francisco at the time, and she called me. She was like, Mom, our company is telling us that we are remote. We are going to be remote for 1 month. So I thought I should come home and spend time with you. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Sure enough, it was like almost 2 years. So it was an absolute blessing for me to have her with me. It's just like, it was very pleasant to have all those lunch times and dinners and walking times together. It was just like really like a good bonding time for us.
Yeah, I love to hear that, because I think you're right. The paradox, right, of the yin and the yang, right, of things, because I feel the same way about that time of the pandemic. Definitely some blessings, and then other more complicated emotions,
right.
Especially at the beginning, the confusion and the anger and the fear, right? So thank you for sharing that. And Shabnam, I had the pleasure of meeting you about a year ago, I believe, and you were telling your story at Tales and Ales, and you are such an excellent storyteller.
Thank you.
And I remember that Nikki Darawala, the ED at the time of Loudoun Literacy Council, introduced us. And I just loved hearing your story. I loved how you presented it. And it was in front of an audience, right? So it was so great. How did that feel for you to do that?
I don't know what's the average fear of performance or like the stage. I think I have less of it overall. And I like to I love to teach. I think that's why I also love to do the storytelling. Mm-hmm. But the very humbling experience that I learned in that particular event was how heartwarming is when the audience get engaged and you can make them laugh. It was just so humbling for me that, oh my God, I could just create a little moment for others too. It was a deep connection for me.
Yeah, very nice. You were a natural for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Shabnam, I mentioned a little bit about your story at the introduction. Are you able to share more of your story and how that perhaps led you to be an integral life coach?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Wow, where do I start? Yeah, like you mentioned, actually, like I was born and raised in Iran. So when I was born, I was 7 years old when the big revolution happened, and the Shah of Iran had to leave Iran, and then the dictator, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be the dictatorship, but the dictatorship took over, and it was confusing and shocking for many, many millions of people in Iran, including my parents. And I could watch how things were unfolding to their surprise. It was like not what they expected. Very quickly, actually, we like women started losing all their rights that they had fought for during the time of the Shah. And my mom almost lost her job as a teacher, but they forced her to wear a scarf. Other than that, she would lose her job. And then right like a year later, the 8-year war between Iran and Iraq started. They attacked, Iraqis attacked, but then, I mean, the way that the war went on for 8 years, it was just like millions of lives gone and millions of people lost their houses. And to this day, I kind of like, personally, I had like last year, I had a trauma reaction to the war. How would you think that like 40 years later, you would have this trauma reaction with like such triggers at work? It was just very difficult time, scarcity and everything. And at the same time, my life was as the only child, it was like the parents who did not get along, like fighting was a thing at our house. And they were very different people. And, as a little kid, I was observing how each one is presenting herself or himself. And obviously I was learning through the observation, but I was also very confused. But the paradox, right? It just lives together. It coexists.
Yes.
It brings damages, but it also creates opportunities, like everything else in life. So as I grew up, I just didn't like not only the dictatorship, but also the rigidity of the male dominant culture that, was actually reinforced because of the dictatorship and the theocracy. And I was like, I want to make a different life for myself. Now, going through the trial and errors, I fell in love when I was 19, and I had my daughter when I was not even 21. Something that I didn't expect to happen, something I didn't plan.
Yeah.
However, when I had my daughter, I was even more adamant that like, I want to change the life of the two of us.
Nice.
And then with the help of my parents, I was able to get through my life. I was able to go through a very, very difficult divorce. However, that led us, when I say us, me and my daughter, basically, that led us to more opportunities. As a single woman, I needed to work. I needed to go to school. I had my parents' support, but it just opened up opportunities and at the same time challenges to be a single mother, to be a divorcee in a male dominant country and work, to go to work. And it was just like going through a lot of challenges, but staying there like other women. If it was only me, I couldn't do it. But when I would feel like every other woman is going through that, and we are in this together, and we are going to make it better, it was very different. Eventually, I chose to leave Iran. And I'm actually very grateful for the decision and for it to happen. It's not an easy thing. Many people would like to, but not really easy to get the opportunity. And like other things, at the same time, I feel like I wish that's kind of like a that dream that like I wish I could live in the country that I was born and could speak my mother tongue and grow the exact same way that I grew in a different country that now I call home.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story. It's beautiful. I understand, like you said, the paradox of it, right? There are, beautiful parts to it and parts that are more complicated and that there was suffering, right? Because I think those are the emotions. We have all of those emotions, the whole spectrum of them, right? That we experience in life. So thank you so much for sharing that, because so all of that brought you to where you are now, which is, you're an integral life coach, you're an author, you wrote your memoir called the Persian Paradox. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And can you tell us how that happened, that you decided that you wanted to put this in writing?
Yeah, of course. I think subconsciously I got to the point that, like, in a cliche, we would call it like a midlife crisis. But I think subconsciously I got to the point that I really needed to retell my story because I was still looking at myself as a victim. I wasn't able to see whatever I had built. Yes. So there was like, I had everything that, it was like that American dream. I had a nice, respectable job. My daughter finally was here with me after 6 years of separation because of the immigration and Iranian laws and everything. I was in a very good relationship. My current husband, we were just enjoying our close relationship, and we had a like nice little beautiful American house. So you would think that's it, right? You are just like living your life, but something in me, there was a void. There was something in me that was calling for something deeper in life.
Yes.
And honestly, I don't know how I got to the point, but I remember that like a friend from back old time, he had told me that, you should write your life story. And that kind of like came up. It was like being born. And I remember I was sitting with another friend and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna write my story. And that's how I started to telling my story, but also retelling it to find to find more clarity in the reality that happened.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah, and I know that now you have workshops, right, where you can teach us how to do this. If you can tell us a little bit about that, I would love to hear more, and I'm sure that our
sure. I truly enjoy those workshops. I get even so excited when I'm working on the slides and getting ready for it. It's so emotional for me because the very main reason that I wrote my story was not only to share my story with others, but I wanted other people to share their stories. That's why these workshops are so dear to me. In fact, one is starting this Friday in Reston Library. And this time, we have, I'm offering workshops for memoir writing and writers' emotional support. And, to get back to your question about like how did I get to the end of it, the life coaching? I just feel like, because I've been through the process, I know processing difficult informations is not easy. And I was very lucky that I had a writing coach, and I also had a therapist who were helping me through this process.
Good.
But I want to inform other people who are ready to start writing their stories and sharing their stories that, like, there are literary techniques that we are using because we are writing a story. It's not like just like a matter of fact biography. You're writing a story of your life, and it could be a piece of your life. But a memoir is like your story to share. But through writing this story, you will need a lot of emotional support to process the emotions, the experiences that you had, to see them from a point of view that brings more resilience. That makes sense.
It does. It really does. I love that, Shabnam, because it seems like both of these paths, I want to say, being an integral coach and the author and the workshops, in the end, it's about healing.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful thing because, we know right now the whole world needs healing. And then if you break that down to all the way down to the countries, to the communities, to each individual, we all have something that we need to heal. We can't get to a certain age without having had something, that we need to heal. So I think that's wonderful that you're able to integrate all of that to offer this to people.
Thank you. Many people have probably heard about Dr. Gabor Mate. He offers a lot of wisdom on trauma. And so this is like not a quotation from him, but I remember him saying that trauma is a pandemic. It's like we have a pandemic of trauma.
Yes.
It is collective trauma and intergenerational trauma. So even if I grew up in a perfect house and in a perfect country, there is still the intergenerational trauma. But what is the perfect house? Right. There is no perfect house because our parents also dealt with their own emotional challenges and their parents too. So it's always something that goes to our subconscious. And if you, especially with storytelling, like you mentioned, it's a very good healing tool to kind of like bring those out and see them, look at them differently. That's what I call retelling your story.
Yeah. Well, I know that I would love to take one of your workshops. Several years ago, about 10 years ago, I did a presentation at Sterling Women, which is here in Loudoun County, and I called it Dance Through La Vida. Ooh. And it was basically what you're talking about. I didn't really know what it was, but because I was retelling my story, my family story, the intergenerational. And what I did was I have family from all over, being Latina and also of European descent. So I would talk about a particular grandparent and attach like the tango, because Argentina. And I did salsa, and I did music from Spain, the flamenco. And I had a dancer who represented and who, did the choreography for the dance and for my story, which had a lot of difficult moments in it. And boy, was that cathartic and healing. I mean, I didn't realize that would happen, but it was really something. But I've never done it since. And I wonder now, and my life has changed dramatically since then. After that, I got divorced, and so yeah, I might have to take your class to sort of rewrite it and, see what comes up.
That would be my honor. But what you are saying is just fascinating to me, because when you bring the medium of art, you show a very different reality of this story. And it's not only healing for you, it's healing for the audience. It's just like the audience absorb it differently. And with dance and music, that's a whole different world. It just makes it so connectable.
And thank you for saying that. But you also use some words when you talk about the work that you do, and you say to help clients bring out their hidden gems in their stories. And I have to say that really touched me. I think that that's so key, because a lot of people will think of their stories and think, oh, it's heavy. There's been sadness and difficulties. But really, in all of our lives, there are still those hidden gems. And I think that that's so important, because it's focusing on the positive of our lives, or even the cumulative effect of the difficult moments and the good moments, and that those are still gems.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Thanks for saying that. The workshop, one of the workshop, the storytelling workshop that we had actually with Loudoun Literacy Council, with the support of Nikki in 2020, was with a few of immigrant ladies, all from different parts of the world. And when we started the workshop, because English is not their second language, it was a little like mine. It was not easy yet. But as I started asking questions in these workshops, and I was like, well, you had a daughter in a country that having a daughter was not like a pleasant thing. Everyone expected you to have a son, but you stood up and you were like, I'm proud of having a daughter. That's a strength, that's like standing up for yourself. And she was like, that's true. She kind of like started looking at this story, at her own story differently.
That's wonderful.
That happened to me. That's happened when I work with other people, because basically the very main point of integral coaching is seeing your qualities and making sure if they are a little bit distorted, to help the other person to bring it out, to develop it more. And we all have all these qualities. We all have all these strengths. We have built them, but some less, some more, but it's in us. It's not like we should go out, find them, or we should start creating from the scratch. We have them. Sometimes I'm talking to clients and like they bring examples of what they've done. And I'm like, do you hear yourself? You have this strength. You've been doing it all along.
Yeah.
So we all have them, like, it's just like the matter of having someone, a safe person that can be your mirror and show you that you see you have it.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And it's such a special gift that you have to offer others. So thank you for that. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And in the community, you also do volunteering. I know that you've been an ESL teacher for Loudoun Literacy Council, and you offer that workshop that you just mentioned in Loudoun Literacy Council. So thank you for the work that you do in the community as well.
Those are all just opportunities for growth for me. Thank you.
Yeah. And, I like to bring in some quotes. I love quotes. I've always loved quotes. And so I looked some up that had to do with healing and telling your life story. Can I share one with you?
Please.
Okay. This is Paulo Coelho. Have you heard of him? Yes. Okay. I knew you would. the Portuguese author who I just love. And he said, tears are words that need to be written.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yes. Ooh, yeah.
And it brings tears to my eyes. It's so true, right?
Very true.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And then the other, I have two others, and I think the last one you'll really know why I brought that in. The second one is Maya Angelou, who I also love. And she said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. It sounds like you know that quote.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's so true, right?
Yes.
What we carry inside, we have to let it out. And I think you are offering an avenue to do that in a healthy way. And I love that.
Thanks for saying that. That's exactly what I was thinking, that like telling your story is the way to bring it out constructively. Otherwise, it comes out as anger, as destructive. Not that anger is bad, but as a destructive anger,
Exactly.
or depression, or a lot of confusion.
Or addictions.
If you just keep it in, it just doesn't go away.
Yeah. So true. And the last one I wanted to offer is by Brene Brown, who we love. And we did a book club together on her new book, Atlas of the Heart. And she said, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. That's
very true. That couldn't be more than, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So all of these remind me of you and the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Shabnam, I believe in the concept of nourishing your soul. And I'm wondering, what do you do to nourish your soul?
Let's go back to Brene Brown's quotation that talks about owning our story. What I'm focusing at the moment to nourish my own soul is self-acceptance. Because there are so many pieces of us that we dislike, we disown, and then storytelling is one way of bringing it in, integrating it in, and liking it. Because that Shabnam, who was not a good, or whether there is a good or bad student in high school, what was the circumstances? Why did she not study enough? Why did she get the bad grades? And then there is so much curiosity in it. But then when I look at it with compassion, then I try to own my own self, including taking responsibility for the mistakes I made.
Sure. Yeah.
But also owning that piece of myself and self-accepting.
Right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
And I wonder if you can share if you can leave us with some words of wisdom.
My motto is self-compassion.
I love that. Yeah.
Without self-compassion, we cannot build a constructive life, including a good relationship with ourselves and others. As long, even if I think I love other people, but I hate myself, that's not still true.
That's right.
Until I have self-compassion, until I understand myself, then I start developing compassion for others.
Yeah.
And self-compassion is truly very far away from being selfish.
Yes.
It's actually a tool to be more humble, a tool to be more selfless even. But if I have the self-compassion, if I understand myself, if I do the self-care that I need, then I am able to be present for you, to connect to you.
Yes. Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Wonderful words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Shabnam. And this continues to be a powerful time to love each other, to unite, and to live in peace. And thank you so much for joining me, and I honor the light in you. Thank you so much for listening to Uno Souls Chat. You can find us at www.unosouls.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I would love to hear from you if you would like to chat with me. Have a beautiful week and see you at the next episode.